بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. A bank teller counts millions but owns nothing. If a person has been afforded the opportunity to read the Quran, the book of Hidayat, then we may go through the pages, but we should see in our life if this changes as our life ages. So Quran is our yardstick for amal, it's our yardstick of life, it's the constitution of life, and similarly it is a yardstick for the criteria to identify how much of the love of Allah we have. Quran is a love letter, and a beloved would take pleasure and enjoy reciting a letter from their beloved. So, do I have time to read the Quran, or am I too busy with newspapers, magazines, articles, novels, social media, WhatsApp? I've got time for every chat on earth besides chatting with Allah Rabbul Alameen. As Sufyan Bin Uyayna used to say, لا تبلغوا ذروة هذا الأمر حتى لا يكون شيء أحب إليكم من الله. That you will never reach your climax until this is more beloved to you. وَمَنْ أَحَبَّ الْقُرْآنَ فَقَدْ أَحَبَّ اللَّهِ. If you love Quran, that's a sign of the love of Allah. So understand well مَا يُقَالُ لَكُمْ, what I'm telling you, the criteria and the standard to identify how much of the love of Allah you have is how much love you have of Quran. So how much time do I spend in making tilawat of Quran? How much time do I spend in making hifz of the Quran? How much time I spend in understanding the ma'ani of the Quran? How much time do I spend in making tabligh of this Quran? Ahmed Bin Hawary used to say, إِنِّي لَأَقْرَأُ الْقُرْآنَ فَانْظُرْ فِيهِ آيَةً. When I'm reading the Quran and I go through every ayah, then I marvel at the huffaz, how they can sleep so long and how they can be engaged with the dunya. وَهُمْ يَتَكَلُّمُونَ كَلَامَ الرَّحْمَنِ, when they have the speech of Rahman. لَوْ فَهِمُوا مَا يَتْلُونَ وَعَرَفُوا حَقَّهُ. If they really knew the value, they understood it, and they recognize its haqq, وَتَلَذَّذُوا بِهِ, they would have taken pleasure, they would have taken they would have gotten ecstasy out of this Quran, they would have gotten the enjoyment of the Quran if they really knew the value of the Quran. So this gratification, this satisfaction, this pleasure which a person would have gotten from the Quran if he really understood it and he knew the haqq, then he carried on saying, لَذَهَبَ عَنْهُمُ النَّوْمُ فَرْحًا. Their sleep would have been lost out of enjoyment, the satisfaction and the pleasure that they would have got from the Quran and the tawfiq which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given them from this Quran. They would have lost sleep. So Quran is there for us, it is a favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We should not take it for granted. Sulaiman ibn Abi Dawud used to say, narrating from Ibn Uyayna, إن العاقل إذا لم ينتفع بقليل الموعظة لم يزدد على الكثير منها إلا شرا. A wise person, if he cannot take benefit from a little advice, then a lot of advice will harm him. He will just harm himself more when a lot of advice happens. So when something is available, a person is born Muslim, doesn't have value of Islam, person is born in an environment of Deen, somebody is born in Makkatul Mukarramah, do they have value of the Baytullah or Madinatul Munawwara? Do they have value of the Rawda Athar? So when you have excess of something, then you do not appreciate it. So Quran is fadl. Amongst the names and the descriptions of Quran is fadl. Kul bi fadlillahi wa bi rahmatihi. So say, in the bounty of Allah and His mercy, فَبِذَلِكَ فَلْيَفْرَحُوا. Therein they should rejoice. So rejoice on what? What has come from Allah in the guidance, in Deen, in Haqq. It is nothing else is better on earth than rejoicing on this. هُوَ خَيْرٌ مِمَّا يَجْمَعُونَ. This is better than what they amass. All the wealth, all the treasures, all the luxuries cannot be combined, because this world is a place of ruins. It's a place of vanishing aspirations, and it's filled with trials and tribulations. Akhirat is the ultimate, and that's where we should seek the ultimate pleasure, enjoyment, and not in this world. That's why the Thanwi rahimahullah say, do not desire peace and comfort in this world. Troubles will only come to an end when a person enters Jannah. So sakina, comfort, peace, tranquility is only in Akhirat. So this difficulty of a person building one's Akhirat is not any difficulty. Whatever hardships we go to get our Akhirat is no difficulty. The real difficulty will be seen when a person goes in the qabr, when they are resurrected on the day of Qiyamah, on Hashr, when they have to cross the Pul Sirat. Actual difficulties will be witnessed in the year after. Yes, we should make dua for peace and protection from afiyah. Allah should guide us and grant us afiyah, and Allah should shower His ni'am on us. But when these bounties come, Hazrat Thanwi used to say, then we are blind. We are blind. So not only we avoid it, but we see benefit in dunya promises, in the worldly promises, the deception and the propaganda of batil, we absorb it and we seek it. Whereas the promises of Allah and His Rasul, we are blind of that. So we should not get caught up in this web of deception. Like there were 3 war veterans who went out fishing one day, and they walked across the water, and they were amazed and wondering what they had caught. And when they pulled something out of the water, then a jinn came, and he said, since you've saved me, I will help you. So the first person says, I've been suffering back pain since shrapnel hit me in the war, can you help me? He said, sure, no problem. He touched the man's back and he felt relief for the first time in 30 years. The second man, who wore thick glasses, said, I've never able to see properly since a mine blew up in the war. something you can help me? He removed the man's glasses. As soon as the glasses hit the water, the man's eyes cleared and he would see perfectly for the first time in 30 years. Then the third man, as the jinn turned towards him, he put his arms up defensively and cried, "Don't touch me, don't touch me. I'm on disability pension. I am on disability pension. If you cure me, I won't get my pension." So the difficulties that we are going through, we are too blind to opt for the opportunity which Allah and His Rasul have given us, and we should make qadr of this. So kul bi fadlillahi, Quran is a favor, it's a grace, it is a bounty from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Alama in his kitab Fathul Qadir has mentioned that bifadlillahi huwa, this is the favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ala ibadihi fil ajil wal ajil bima la yuhitu bihi al-hasr. This favor of Allah and His servants in this world and in Akhirat are so much we cannot encompass it. Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu, fadlullah is al-Qur'an wa rahmatu al-Islam. So this fadl is the Qur'an itself. And in another narration, fadl is Qur'an wa rahma an ja'alakum min ahlihi. Since you've got this Qur'an and Allah has made you ahl of the Qur'an, this is the fadl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So how the ulama, the qurra, the mashayikh of the past valued the Qur'an, because they knew it was a great favor from Allah. And how do we value? We need to introspect. Abu Bakr Shu'ba bin Ayyash, who was a student of the fifth Imam of Qira'ah, Imam Asim Kufi. So he spent his entire life in learning and teaching Quran. He actually spent 50 years as a teacher of Qira'ah. And when he passed away, he was reciting the Book of Allah. And his enthusiasm rubbed off on his students. And he spent his whole life serving, reciting the Quran, that once he said, "I've never done anything objectionable. I've completed an entire Quran every day for the last 30 years. I've completed the entire Quran every day for the last 30 years. And he engaged himself in ibadah for so long that his family never made a bed for him for 40 years. He engaged in ibadah for 70 years, and for 40 years his family never made his bed. In this time his stomach never touched the ground even once, and he completed 24,000 times khatam of Quran in his life. And when you sit directly in front of his teacher Asim, he completed the recitation of the Quran like this, 3 times by first reciting 5 verses at a time over a period of 3 years, because in those days you needed to go in front of a ustad and you need to make a tilawat, and they would listen and correct you. And when he was passing away, his wife started to cry and tear, and he said, "Why are you crying?" And then he pointed to the corner of the room. So she looked at the corner and he said, "I've completed the recitation of the Quran 18,000 times in that corner, and I've instructed my children that they should never commit any sin in that corner." So imagine, when we say Qari, we just consider a person who can read the Quran beautifully, but these Qurra were pious, Allah-fearing, muttaqi people. Besides knowing how to recite Quran, their days and nights were spent in ibadah, in tilawah, not only in qira'ah and tajweed. If we had to divide the amount of recitations of he had done in his life, then we will marvel probably it would be around 325 recitations of Quran every year. Nowadays people struggle for Taraweeh, Allah make us maaf, just to make one khatam in the whole month of Ramadan. People struggle to make Taraweeh, and we see generally the first 3-4 nights the masajid are full, and the last 3 or 4 nights more than that, like on Deen, the musallis in Taraweeh in a Mubarak month of Ramadan also disappear. They find it difficult just to make one khatam the entire Ramadan. So we need to introspect and we need to see what's our purpose and objective. So that's fadl. So Imam Raghib Asbahani, you say that this fadl is az-ziyadatu anil iqtisar. So excess and increase, no matter how minute it is, but an increase. Al-fadl huwa az-ziyadatu fil khair aw al-ajr, an increase in goodness, in reward. And this fadl of Allah is the favor of Allah, this bounty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Qul bi fadlillahi wa bi rahmatihi. And this fadl, the giver is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So sometimes it is not only about the gift. One is somebody gives you a valuable gift which is valuable, but if somebody just gives you something simple, your beloved just gave you a rose, it's a flower, its petals is nothing of value, but since it came from the beloved, so anything that a beloved gives becomes beloved. Ya Allah is sahibul fadl ala ibadihi, wa anna al-fadla biyadillahi yu'tihi man yasha. Allah gives His fadl. So the fact that a person is favored by Allah, that it's in itself is a great bounty. Wallahu dhul fadlil azim. Likewise, Allah favors His servants. Yuridu an yatafaddal alaykum. Allah once favors, bounties on you. وَيُؤْتِي كُلَّ ذِي فَضْلٍ فَضْلَهُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give a person who is eligible for this fadl His favor. So whoever in the akhirat, people will see that the amal that they did for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they will find not even a perfect recompense, but more than they deserve, Allah will grant them. Then this fadl, there are 14 different departments or eligibility when it comes to this favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on His servants. And number one is Bil Islam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has favored somebody with Islam. There's no fadl and favor greater than this. Qul innal fadla biyadillahi yu'tihi man yasha. So we should be grateful that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted us Iman in Islam. Afaman sharahullah sadrahu lil Islam. That's a great favor. Then Al-In'am bin Nubuwa, where Allah is favored Nubuwa in prophethood. وَكَانَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكَ عَظِيمًا. So the fact that prophethood, and we've got so Allah gave the Nabi of Allah prophethood, and we've got the Prophet of Allah, is a great favor. This is a great bounty. Ar-rizq fi dunya, that sustenance, this is a favor of Allah. فَإِذَا قُضِيَتِ الصَّلَاةُ فَانْتَشِرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَابْتَغُوا مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ. So that's a favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَا يَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ يَبْخَلُونَ بِمَا آتَاهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. So a person who is stingy, he should not be stingy when Allah has given him all these bounties. النعمة ذلك من فضل الله علينا وعلى الناس. So this bounties and this ni'mah, tawheed, ibadah, all the bounties of Allah which has given them, we should be grateful. Then Jannah وَبَشِّرِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ بِأَنَّ لَهُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ فَضْلًا كَبِيرًا. So Jannah is a favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the reward which Allah has given us in Jannah. وَاللَّهُ يَعِدُكُم مَغْفِرَةً مِّنْهُ وَفَضْلًا. Then forgiveness of sins. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَذُو فَضْلٍ عَلَى النَّاسِ. The delay for adhab, تأخير العذاب. Number 8. وَلَوْلَا فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ وَرَحْمَتُهُ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ لَمَسَّكُمْ فِيمَا أَفَضْتُمْ فِيهِ عَذَابٌ عَظِيمٌ. Then accepting قبول التوبة والإنابة. So Allah accepting tawbah and giving them this inclination. وَلَوْلَا فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ وَرَحْمَتُهُ وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ رَءُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ. Then success and bounties. وَالْغَنِيمَةِ فَانْقَلَبُوا بِنِعْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَفَضْلٍ. Then increase زيادة الثواب والكرامة, reward. وَأَنَّ الْفَضْلَ بِيَدِ اللَّهِ يُؤْتِيهِ مَن يَشَاءُ. Then خير. Number 12. وَإِن يُرِدْكَ بِخَيْرٍ فَلَا رَادَ لِفَضْلِهِ. Then rahmah and mercy. وَاللَّهُ يَخْتَصُّ بِرَحْمَتِهِ مَن يَشَاءُ وَاللَّهُ ذُو الْفَضْلِ الْعَظِيمِ. Then huda. Number 14. وَلَوْلَا فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ وَرَحْمَتُهُ مَا زَكَى مِنْكُمْ مِنْ أَحَدٍ. So we should try to draw when we read in making tilawat of Quran, make a niyat that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should shower all of these bounties on us. The amal for today is that we should fill the gaps. Man wasala saffan wasalahu Allah. Whoever joins the sufuf, Allah will join them. وَمَنْ قَطَعَ صَفًّا قَطَعَهُ اللَّهُ. And whoever breaks the safs, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will break them. May Allah give us tawfiq. وَمَيْكِنْ عَمَلُ وَآخِرُ دَعْوَانَا أَنِ الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ.